Good guy, that Mike Garafolo.
Love the intro music. And on that note, let's welcome in NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. Mike, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that Aaron Rodgers had surgery on that Achilles just over a month ago. Here he is throwing a football on the field. Clearly isn't giving up on the chance to return this season either. Realistically, though, Mike, what is the likelihood that he can actually get back in time?
You know, Lindsay, I saw something mentioned today. Someone called him a superhuman. I think it was Christopher Johnson, the brother of Woody Johnson, the Jets owner. And I saw a reply on social media that said, if he was superhuman, he never would have torn his Achilles in the first place. So I say that because the timeline is kind of what we've seen at times from guys who tear their Achilles. Cam Akers, the Rams running back, came back within the same season. He tore it in the offseason and then came back late in the year. It was about 5 months where he returned. And certainly there's a lot more cutting and acceleration at the running back position than there is for Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. Now, he is older than Akers and some of these other guys who have returned. So it is conceivable that he would be back sometime around the postseason. Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show, let's cool your jets a little bit with regard to that timeline. And him throwing was more or less for him to get back in the feel of being around a football team and doing football things. But it is possible. And it kind of reminds me of last year, Jimmy Garoppolo, when he got hurt and Brock Purdy took over. They said, well, Garoppolo could return if they get to the Super Bowl. Well, if they got to the Super Bowl, you weren't taking Brock Purdy out. In this case, if the Jets get to the postseason with Zach Wilson, unless he plays absolutely out of his mind, you're going to let Aaron Rodgers come back. So I kind of want to see how it would play out if they get to that point. Look, they're 3-3. Wilson's done a nice job. It is conceivable they make the playoffs, and at that point, it is conceivable that Rodgers could be back.
Man, it would be great to see him come back this season, wouldn't it? Now, Colts rookie Anthony Richardson may have also played his last game this season, Mike. The team reportedly mulling over the decision to have Richardson undergo surgery to repair that right shoulder. Now, is this more of a long-term view for Richardson, trying not to rush him back this year? What are your thoughts?
Yes, it's something where it would be in the better interest of Anthony Richardson for the long haul to have this surgery done potentially. And it's going to be with his input as well. He is going to have the chance to make a decision on what he wants to do here. But the thought is if it is surgery, again, it would be better for him on the long part of his career. And being in his rookie year, obviously you want to take that into consideration. Now, it is a bummer, though, because this is a guy who came into the NFL, and we said, look, he doesn't have a whole lot of seasoning, doesn't have a whole lot of experience at the quarterback position in college. He's going to need to play to learn. So this is a lot of missed time, a lot of missed reps, a lot of missed games as well, so practices and Sundays as well that Anthony Richardson is going to miss out on. But from a medical perspective, the Colts and Richardson got to make the best overall decision for his future, and it sounds like surgery is going to wind up being that decision.
All right, well, speaking of injuries here, we know the Eagles and the 49ers lost more than just their games this past week, and a couple of big pieces for both teams leaving due to injury. Any positive news to share on the status of Lane Johnson, Christian McCaffrey, also Deebo Samuel in the mix there too?
A lot of positive news, actually. Let's start with the San Francisco 49ers as we're talking about the two previously unbeaten teams. How crazy is it we already have every team in the league with a loss on their record? But with Christian McCaffrey, he's got that rib oblique injury. Sounds like he's got a shot for Monday. And I talked to a source on Tuesday who said if it is humanly possible for Christian McCaffrey to play, he is going to play in that game on Monday. And it gives him the extra day because they play that Monday Night Football game. So the 49ers keeping their fingers crossed that Christian McCaffrey will be out there. This is a guy that hates to be injured. And I know right now he's in a horrible mood because he's in a great situation. He was rolling. He does a lot in the offseason to keep himself in great physical shape. So for him to be injured, you know he's frustrated. And you know if he gets a chance to be out there, he will be. Deebo Samuel, you mentioned as well. Yes, he was in pain on Sunday and had to leave that game, but everything since then has been pointing up. He is day-to-day, according to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. So Deebo, a chance to return for this game as well. Trent Williams as well, too. He's day-to-day with that ankle injury that he suffered. As for Lane Johnson and the Eagles, I know that when he first hurt his ankle against the Jets, there was talk of a high ankle sprain, and people say, well, you're talking about a couple of weeks now. It's a low ankle sprain. Yes, it's painful. I don't want to poo-poo it by any stretch, but Lane Johnson, another guy where if he's got a shot to be out there, he will be out there. He has proven that in the past. And a source close to him said I think he's probably going to wind up playing. Maybe he shouldn't, but he's probably going to wind up playing because it's such a big game for the Eagles, especially with the Cowboys now back in the race in the NFC East.
Okay, a lot of positivities there. Nice optimistic outlook,
Yep.
Mike. Finally, an injury concern heading into our Thursday nighter surrounding Trevor Lawrence. We know he tweaked his left knee. That was late in last week's win. So is he progressing enough to actually play on a short week here? What's the status looking like for Thursday?
He is. He's doing much better since injuring that knee on Sunday in the victory over the Colts. And it looks like he's probably going to wind up being the guy because the Jaguars on Tuesday had him return to practice in a limited capacity, but he did take the majority of the reps with the first team, I am told. So that is an indication they are preparing for Trevor Lawrence to be out there against the Saints. He said he is optimistic that he will be able to go and is feeling much better than he did, a couple of days ago. Going up against a tough defense in the Saints that I think is going to come out and will look to play really hard after a disappointing loss that they had a couple of days ago. So maybe a little bit less mobility for Trevor Lawrence, could be in a little bit of pain and going up against a tough defense. But it does look like, Lindsay, he will at least be out there. So we'll see.
Okay, and Trevor Lawrence said himself he'll do everything he can to be out there. You know he is itching to play this Thursday, and the Jags trying to win their 4th straight game. They're on quite the roll. Mike, thanks so much for this. Nice chatting with you.
You got it, Lindsay.
All right, well, looking ahead to our Thursday nighter, here are your odds courtesy of FanDuel's. The Saints, 1.5-point favorites at home over the Jags. And as we discussed with Mike, Trevor Lawrence's status is up in the air, but seems to have a positive outlook. You'll love to hear that. Pre-game coverage begins 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on TSN.